Hi everyone, this is Shirley. As you can tell, I'm filming in front of the San Diego Zoo. And the reason I'm doing that is that unfortunately I can't make it today. I'm on a cruise through the Mexican Riviera. However, I want to thank Sandy Higgins for doing this program. We have filmed a series of short clips that will highlight how to finish the San Diego anniversary ornament or any round ornament that you may have. So sit back, relax, and enjoy while we go through this program. And as an aside, to the San Diego Zoo was built in 1916, and it's the only one that houses the platypus in North America. One of the first, if not the only zoo at the moment that released condors back in the wild. So now they're reproducing. Have over 3,500 species on its sites, both sites here and the Safari Park in Escondido or North County. And I invite anybody who is in San Diego and wants to go to the zoo. If it works out with my husband and I being here, we can get you and 3 other adults in for free. So sit back and relax and enjoy today's program. I'll see you next month when we highlight the Aztec stitch, and I will show more postcards from San Diego depicting the areas that we chose on the 35th anniversary. Bye, everybody.
But this is an evening.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm first going to show you the materials that you're going to need to make your ornament. First, you need your ornament. And you should zigzag around the outside so to keep the canvas stable after you cut it. It doesn't, if you do not have a sewing machine and you can't zigzag, you could put a thin line of white glue around, maybe a 1/4 of an inch away from the canvas and let it dry. So you'd have to prepare a little bit more ahead of yourself. You need scissors to cut fabric and to cut the mat board. And this is the mat board that you would need for your backing. I use embroidery scissors or small scissors to snip threads. You need a box cutter of some sort to score the mat board. I like to have a pair of pliers on hand. I use glue stick for attaching the fleece lining to the back of the mat board and to secure the fabric onto the back of it. I use pins, I have needles, a thimble if you need it, and you need some sort of a round thing to make a circle for your, I had some pre-made ones, but oftentimes these don't fit, so I get in the habit of saving jar lids, other things to use. And a nice little ruler. Pen and pencil. I'm not getting things over here. So that, you better stop it.
Hi, we're filming Sandy, and this segment is she's going to show you how she prepares the canvas ready to be assembled. Sandy?
Hi, everybody. You obviously need your canvas, and the best thing to do to prepare it is to zigzag around the outside with a sewing machine, and I use a triple zigzag because it holds better. If you do not have a sewing machine, you could put a thin line of glue, white glue, all the way around, maybe a 1/4 an inch away from the needlework, and put it on something that the glue won't damage, and then let it dry. So you may have to let it dry several hours before you start your project.
So Sandy, when I apply the thin glue, is it a zigzag pattern or a straight circle?
Just a straight circle right next to it.
Okay.
If you have a sewing machine and you don't have zigzag, you could do straight stitches all the way around and maybe do 2 or 3 coming out, 1/8 of an inch and a little bit more all the way around. You want to secure the canvas so that when this is all cut out, it won't ravel back to the needlework. Also, if you do away waist knots, make sure they're anchored securely to the back or with your zigzag, because if you cut them off, it would make the possibility that your threads will come out of your design. You need a mat board for the backing. You need some sort of a template to cut out to fit the backing, and we'll talk about templates in another section. You need your fabric for the backing, and on the back of the fabric, I like to use a bond, the knit interfacing. If you like the Pellon non-woven fusible interfacing, you can do that also.
Oh, what's the other one is called?
This is just fusible knit interfacing. It's a Pellon product. I get it at Joann's. The other things you need are Pellon circles to go on the backing. Pretend that's the backing. It'd go there, and then the fabric would be wrapped around it. You also need a stack of Pellon to go between here and the backing when it's put onto the needle point. Okay.
Okay, so this segment is going to have Sandy explaining how she cuts the circles for the finished ornaments for different sizes as well.
Okay. Every circle obviously is different, and you would think they would all fit standard size templates, but they don't. Most ornaments are 4 inches across. This one's about 3. Now the 4-inch template I have would not fit an exact 4-inch ornament. This is a little bit bigger, so it will. The backing, the mat board cannot be the same dimension as the needle point. It needs to be a little smaller, because as you wrap the fabric around the mat board, it makes it a little bit bigger. And if it's a heavier weight fabric, you've got to allow for another 1/8 of an inch maybe, or 1/16 to an 1/18 of an inch. This circle is just a little bit smaller. Also, it looks like that the ornament has a few extra stitches on the bottom and the top half of the circle. I take the circle that I plan to use, and I'm going to use this one and mark around it. And because my template has the quarters marked, I'm going to mark them, and I'm going to do this. Then when I apply the fabric to the back, I can get it lined up with the grain of the fabric to the quarters. It'll also make it easier to line it up on the back of the ornament. Once I've marked it, I take my box cutter, and on this one I'm going to mark a little bit outside. So it will cut a little bit bigger. I go around a second time just to score a little deeper. I cut out make the piece smaller, it's easier to handle. There, now, where's my... Take the fleece that was cut out to go on the back of the mat board, put some glue stick here just to make it stay. Yeah, you don't want extra lint. Oh no, and then I'm going to take the prepared mat board with the cross hatches facing you and up here, put it up against the fabric, which has already had the interfacing applied to it.
So Sandy, how big is that fabric that you're putting it on?
Oh, this is very thin, it's silk.
I know, but how big should I cut it?
Oh, you want to cut at least, 3/4 or a half, 5/8 of an inch beyond the mat board. You can cut it bigger. I'm going to estimate a circle going around. And one other thing I need to talk about is the grain of fabric, and that's the weft and the warp. When you go to put this on the back, on your backing, on your mat board, you need to line up the grain with these markings so that the fabric is on here straight. There's two ways to make the fabric stick to the mat board. You can notch the fabric like this all the way around. Only cut up to, leave about 1/4 of an inch uncut next to the mat board. If you don't want to do that, you can just slash it like this. It goes a little faster. The other's a little tidier. You can put glue stick on the edges where you're going to fold it over the mat board. And then I put glue stick on the back, the inside of the back. Now I'll have to check the grain of the fabric again to make sure that I have it straight. And then you fold over your backing. Now I think you can see where this would be a little easier if you took the time to notch it. You wouldn't have all these little things poking up. You want to pull all these and make sure that the fabric is right up against the backing edge, the mat board edge. You could see where I've notched, it's a little flatter and less bulky. It really doesn't matter. This is a slub in the fabric, and it's mine, so I don't care. All right, the next step is preparing the canvas for assembly with the backing. You need to cut out the ornament, and then I press the unworked canvas to the back of the needle point and cut at least a 1/2 inch or to 3/4. You can always cut it off, but you can't put it back on if it's not there. And if you get it too close, the canvas will ravel. And the other thing I like to do is slash like I did on the backing fabric. And you can notch it if you want to. But in the interest of time at this point, I think I'll just slash it. And those of you who have not stitched your ornament, I would still say stitch the whole thing. And the next is pressing this canvas. First of all, I hand turn everything to the back.
So that's why notching it will make it a little better,
Yeah.
because it's less material to hand press it in the back.
Right, right. Okay. And you want to roll that last row of stitches, because when you assemble this, you don't want any white canvas thread showing. And you think, oh, they'll get covered up by the twisted cord edging, but they don't.
So Sandy, would it be helpful if we stitched another white row around it, or blue, to help with the finishing?
If you wanted to stitch an extra row, it would make the seam bulkier. So when I make flat back ornaments, as we call them, square or round or oval, whatever shape, I do not like extra rows for the bulk. Stop. Stop.
Oh. And see, this is how it looks.
Yeah, got that.
Okay. Now hold it right here. There we go.
And it doesn't look round, but as I said, I don't think it quite was. But because of the angle of the bridge, this makes it look flatter, but when the two pieces are put together, it will be round.
Camera.
Okay, now I've prepared the canvas and we've prepared the backing. I did notch the canvas to make it a little less bulky. Turn the canvas over so the wrong side's facing up, and then you're going to put your Pellon circles inside. I'm making it like for padding. So each one is progressively larger. And then the canvas will be wrapped around it like this. The other thing I do before I put the backing to the canvas is I mark the top center. This is 3 inches across. Here's 1.5 inches. Just run the pin up here and put it in. Now, if you really want to be able to match it up evenly, do that on the bottom. Now I can take the quarter markings on the backing and mark them with pins, so when I turn it over, I can align them together. This is just approximate because as you go around, whoops, I got caught in my thread.
So you're attaching the backing and the needle point together.
Right. And, well, the pins don't want to come out. See, I can match up those two pins at the bottom, but you want to make sure you have wrapped the canvas around those Pellon circles, and you've tucked in and rolled the edges of the canvas so you don't see those at the edge. Yeah, just keep fiddling around, and that canvas kind of has a little point there, so use your fingernails to tuck it in. Now that's approximate, so I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to hold it up this way so that I can see that the warp and the weft of the fabric is straight and aligned with the front of the canvas. And I'm going to have to roll more of that unworked canvas to the underside. Once you know that your backing is lined up correctly with the front, then I go around and pin more securely all the way around. Sometimes I use the point of my scissors to help manipulate the canvas. It's easier to get in there that way than with my fingernails. And make sure your fabric is pulled all the way around the edge of the mat board. There, now we're ready to hand sew. Canvas all prepared with the backing, and we know that everything's on straight. And this is my marking pin for the top opening of the ornament. That's where we'll tuck the ends of the cording when we're done. And we want to keep that there so we know that's where the correct balance will be when we finally hang the ornament up. So I use a curved surgical needle. This is a 1/2 inch one, and it's pretty sharp. We will supply you with a vendor where you can buy curved surgical needles. I use regular sewing thread, and I did run it through the wax, and I've doubled it. let's see, when I sew the backing onto the canvas, I sew clockwise. When I sew the cording on, I sew counterclockwise. Do it any way you can. If you don't have a surgical needle, just use a regular straight needle. So I anchor the thread up in the back of the canvas. Take a couple of stitches, and I did put a knot in the end of the thread. Then you take a short stitch in your fabric, and then take a short stitch, 2 to 3 canvas threads, wouldn't you know it? It got twisted. Well, this will show you what can happen. It isn't always smooth sailing. A short stitch in the backing, and a short stitch in the canvas stitches.
How many threads do you pull in for the canvas?
I'm right on the last row of canvas stitches, Shirley. And I'm tucking in that unworked canvas as I go.
And then you pick up a couple threads at a time, right?
Right. And then I pick up, maybe a 1/4 inch here. You could go a little longer, but don't get your stitches any longer than 3/8 of an inch. The canvas is stiff. It's not something you're going to do in a hurry. Do you want to stop? I have sewn almost all the way around, but I'm going to run out of thread. And you can see how I've caught in that last row of stitching, and I don't have any white canvas thread showing. Let's see, a couple more stitches here. This is where it got flatter on the side of the canvas. So we can, all right. I don't knot my thread when I get to the end. I've pulled this pretty hard, and I'm going to take stitches underneath in the canvas and take several little back stitches. There, it's secure, and I can cut off the thread, and I'll rethread my needle. I'm going to stop at this point, and then when I get ready to finish it up here, I'll demonstrate. All right, I'm going to start up with the new thread, and I'm anchoring it in the canvas. My backing is silk, and I didn't talk about that so much, but it's a fragile fabric. If it had a canvas or a suede cloth or even velveteen, it's much heavier. And another reason why we use the interfacing, besides stabilizing the fabric, it makes it thicker and a little more stable to put the needle into. Okay, this is the flat side of our particular ornament, our San Diego ornament. So when I put I could pull it and make it round. I'm getting my stitches a little longer. And that's something that when I get going, I forget to keep them short.
So ideally it should be like 2 or 3 threads at a time?
Right.
So when do you use the pliers?
Well, if I get a needle stuck and I can't pull it out with my fingers, I'll use the pliers. And that's more with a straight needle. I've been working with a curved needle for 50 years, so it's pretty easy for me. I find it more awkward to use a straight needle going around curves. That's why I like the curved needle. All right, I'm almost up to the end. And the next thing to do after I've finished sewing this up is to attach the cording. We'll show you how to make cording in another segment. Now I'm not going to end off my thread at this point because I'll have to close this area where we're tucking in the ends of the cording. So I'm going to park my needle like that, and then after I've applied all the cording and it's all tucked in at the end, then I can take this thread and finish sewing up that area there. That's all for now at this point. Hi. This session I'm going to show you the most common threads that are used for making cording. There's DMC floss, the DMC pearl cotton number 5 or number 3. This happens to be an open skein. Krynic threads, I prefer number 12. Silk lame braid, number 18 is the size I prefer. And if you have entice, that would be another good thread to be used. It's a little thinner than the silk lame braid, so you might have to make adjustments in the number of threads you use. All right, here's the ornament that I was working on in the earlier segments. I'm going to measure around the outside approximately, and that's 10.5 inches, but I need enough for a loop. And that's I'm going to say 16 inches I need for a loop. 16, and you take that measurement and multiply it by 3. That makes 48 inches. So you need 48 inches for each strand of floss or pearl cotton that you're going to use. When I do an ornament out of just plain floss, I would take 4 strands of 48 inches long and twist them together. The same for the number 5 pearl cotton and the 18 braid or the number 12 Krynic. If you go to number 3 pearl cotton, you might back off 1 strand. And if you had a thinner Krynic, like a number 8, you might add an extra strand. If you had a 16, you might drop back a strand. But we will go, for this particular ornament, we will do 4 strands, 48 inches long each one, of the floss.
All right, so Sandy had this handmade, which is 4 curtain hooks.
Yeah.
And
cup hooks.
Cup hooks. And if you could see, it's drilled into a makeshift, scrap of wood. I think it was molding, right? And then held together by this. You can buy these clamps at Home Depot. So what she did was she cut out 4 strands of 48, well, really 48 doubled, so that she can put it over the cup hook. Okay, and here's Sandy holding this on to the end now.
Okay, and then I tie a knot, overhand knot at the end. I actually had about 51 inches, but that's good because I've given me the space to tie the knot. Then I put the twister cup hook in that loop, and I'm going to twist clockwise.
Now this twister hook you can buy from Joann's. You could buy online at a retail store. So she's doing it, as you can see, twisting it
And we
to the
twist
cup
it
hook
until it kinks.
Okay. How can you tell when it kinks, Sandy?
Oh, it's a matter of feel. And this is kinking, but it's not quite tight enough.
Okay.
And I think it's a lot of experience. Then I gently tug on this. And then when I'm done, I hold my hand at the knot, take the cup hook out of the loop, and you can untwist the loop so you can get it back at it. Put the twister hook on the cord.
So it's halfway the cord.
And slide it along and
Another cup hook?
put the loop on the same cup hook.
Okay.
Have the cord in the twister in the middle of the cord, and you're going to twist in reverse, counterclockwise.
So why counterclockwise, Sandy?
So it will twist back on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And do that again until it just begins to kink up. That it's a matter of experience. I know that this is the right tension. And again, I pull a little bit. You can take the hook out of the loop and take this loop off the cup hook and let it drop. It will untwist a little. So it's a good idea to kind of over twist it. And then you can do 2 things. You can put a piece of tape around here so it won't untwist. If you don't have tape, you could just tie another overhand knot.
Can I glue it?
No, do not use any glue. I'm adamant about that. All right, we did about 50 inches usable, and it came out that I have 21.5 inches, which is more than you need to do your ornament.
Because your original one was 16.
We needed about 16 and 17 inches.
So, all right, so this is the end of our cord making session.
Okay, now we're ready to apply the cording that we just made to the ornament. And as you remember, this is the middle of the top where I want the loop to come out, so it'll all hang evenly. And I still have my curved needle attached, so I'm going to park it down here and hope it doesn't get in the way. Now take the loop and pin it down there. And I don't start sewing. First of all, we need to pin this cording down and around. And I'll only do small sections at a time. The most important thing to remember is to maintain the twist of your cord. You don't want it to get loose and then too tight. So I do a quarter at a time. I'm using regular sewing thread and I wax it, and I'm only using a single strand. And this is a pretty long strand of thread. You might want to use something a little shorter. And I like to use a sewing thimble when I sew with a straight needle. I'm going to anchor the thread in the back of the stitches up at the top. And And as I said, I'm not going to start right where the loop is. I'm going to start down a little bit, anchor the thread, and then come out to the front. I'm going to make this a little bit shorter, only it's so waxed together. Oh well. Now, we're going to get this as close as I can. I'm going to run my needle down between the loop and catch a little bit of the back and come out into the front, just catching a little bit of the stitching. Run your needle down that channel, pick up a tiny bit from the back and a tiny bit in the front, and pull. You can, I always use a matching color thread. You can use the monofilament line. But if you're in a pinch and don't have the right color thread, use it. You should be able to make it disappear, not show up. Whoops. Yeah, do have to be careful of that. All right, now I've sewn the cord almost all the way around and I'm ready to end it. What I want to do is approximate the end of the loop, or the length of the loop, and make sure I have enough for to tuck the end of the loop in. So I'm going to cut there. Actually, I should have taped it first, but anyway, we can tape down. Tape that end. And if you want to be very environmentally correct, you could sew around that end, but I'm going to use the tape. Then I take a large tapestry needle and thread that end through there. And I'm going to take the pin out of here and this pin out. And I still have my curved needle hanging off there and my straight needle there. And I'm going to untwist this loop end just a little bit so I can get the tapestry needle through without, damn it, oh, do you want to turn it off? It's on that damn phone. Do that on an angle. Just wiggle it through. And I hang it up to make sure the balance is right. Needs to, and I'm going to push this back, twist it around one more time. And I'm going to twist the cording. So, get this thread out of the way. And then the end of the cording gets tucked down in between the needle point and the back. Again, I grab it with my scissors and push it down in. Well, I guess I gotta make the hole a little bit bigger. You don't want to use your scissors, get a pair of tweezers. There. Now I'm gonna pin it together and the balance is good. Now I'm going to take the curved needle It's already threaded up and hanging there. And go back and sew this closure together.
When you do that, Sandy, do you catch on to the front as well as the loop itself?
Oh, I'm catching the front and the back and a few threads of the loop, but I'm going to go back with the straight needle and catch the rest of the cording in the front, and I will make sure that the part that I put down between is secured. Now to end this, I don't knot it, I just backstitch down an inch or two and cut that thread off. I can move that pin out of the way. You want to make sure that gets twisted enough so it's even. And then I'm going to finish sewing this up.
Okay, Sandy, your hair is,
Okay.
yeah, that's great.
And then check that balance again before I sew everything down. Now I'm going down in between the loops, and I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to make a stitch around, and I'm going to come out again to the front. If you use matching thread and you go back and forth through the cording threads, it's not going to show. And the balance is pretty good. And I see another stitch that need to sew down those first loops that we didn't do when we started out. And there again, I just push the needle through, do a couple back stitches in the ditch. Grab the old handy pliers to pull it out. There. Generally, I like to put a bow at the top. I think on our ornament we chose not to, but in another session I'll show you how to quick and easy way to make a bow.
Here you go. Here's Sandy with the Finish 35th anniversary San Diego A&G ornament. And in the next few series or next upcoming programs, we'll talk about each one of the images as depicted on the ornament and what they mean to San Diego and why we chose them. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching our videos. Bye.
Bye.